Chapter 2. The Voices in Joan's Head. Be good, it said, and go to church often. Joan of Arc. 20 years before Joan's birth, in 1398, Marie Rabine, the official national oracle of France, demanded an audience at the court in Paris to announce her latest vision. Although Charles VI refused to sit with her, Rabine warned anyone willing to listen of the great sufferings soon to befall France. She described a vision in which a spirit presented her with a suit of armor. Rabine was terrified that this vision meant she was to go to war, but the spirit calmed her, saying that she had nothing to fear. The armor was not for her. A maid or a virgin would soon come to collect the armor and deliver the kingdom of France from her enemies. Rabine may have been inspired by a generations-old prophecy that France would be brought to ruin by a woman and restored by a virgin from the marshes of Lorraine. The woman in question was believed to be the notorious Queen Isabel of France. Isabel was at the heart of the events leading up to the outbreak of civil war in France, as she was having an affair with Charles VI's younger brother, the Duke of Orleans. The Duke of Orleans and his cousin, the Duke of Burgundy, were in constant competition to take advantage of the king, whose mental health issues diminished his capacity to rule. The powerful dukes competed for Isabel's attraction and influence over the king until, in 1407, the Duke of Orleans was assassinated. The Duke of Burgundy met his end soon after, but a blood feud as deep and treacherous as this would not die with its originators. The dispute was soon taken up by the Duke of Burgundy's son, known as Philip the Good, who promised to avenge his father's death and proclaimed war on the royal family. Isabel's reaction to this was to abandon her infirm husband and ally herself with his enemies. Together, Isabel and Duke Philip convinced the king to sign the Treaty of Troyes, a humiliating agreement that welcomed English troops into France to fight against the Royalists in return for the French throne. The treaty promised the English King Henry V, the daughter of King Charles VI, Catherine of Valois' hand in marriage. To pull off this callous coup, Isabel convinced the king to delegitimize the rightful heir to the French throne, their son, the Dauphin Charles. It was not a stretch to see how Isabel, the promiscuous and sinful queen, had fulfilled the first part of this well-known prophecy. Joan's religious education was basic and imparted almost entirely by her mother, and yet she came to consider herself to be the living embodiment of the second part of this prophecy. Joan was around 13 years old when she entered what she later referred to as the Age of Understanding. The first time Joan heard a voice from God was the summer of 1425. Joan was in her father's garden, probably weeding or pulling up vegetables for dinner, when the village's church bells began to ring. As usual, Joan stopped what she was doing immediately and bowed her head in prayer. Suddenly, Joan's surroundings disappeared and were replaced by a bright white light that illuminated all sides of her. The voice of an angel whom Joan knew instinctively to be Saint Michael rang out, telling Joan simply to be good and to go to church often. When the vision was over, Joan lay back on the grass and wept out of fear and exultation. More visitations followed, during which Joan conversed with Saint Michael, Saint Catherine, and Saint Margaret. Joan began spending increasing amounts of time alone, removing herself from family and village life to visit a secluded chapel in the woods near her village to listen to the angels. Joan didn't tell anybody about her visitations, not even her mother or father, and former friends wondered at her new solitary life. But the more time Joan spent in seclusion, the more often she could hear her voices and find herself consumed by a rapture that showed her the meaning of her life. She realized that she was the chaste virgin of the marshes of Lorraine, and it was her destiny to restore France to glory.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it. at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.